Joy Reid has a mental breakdown and a complete flip out, which is pretty much what she does. But this time she admits, she says that the election could have been stolen, which we've long accused Democrats of, which is that they are the ones who project everything that they really believe onto the Republican Party. They don't have any really internal belief system, which is really weird. But I only know that when they feel guilty about something that they're doing that is evil, they simply project it onto Republicans, going, they must be doing the same thing, including Donald Trump, who they said was an election denier. And that's always meant to evoke Holocaust denial. That's where that, and climate change denial, they use denial to make it sound like you're some kind of a lunatic. Really, Joy Reid is bats. She's completely bats and half drunk in this clip. Welcome to the Doug TenNapel channel. This is where the happy patriots are. Even as we check in on Joy Reid, who needs to check herself in to an institution.
They're even talking about like stealing an election. And it's making me rethink whether I do believe like election machines can be hacked. Because I've always been like, you can't hack the election machines, but they're like convincing me, I don't know, maybe you can, I don't know.
I mean, to me in this world, anything is possible.
Anything is possible.
Now everything is possible. That's all I've ever said, is anything is possible. I never said that the election machines were definitively hacked. I would never say that. I would say it's possible. Elon Musk says it's possible. Now all the Democrats, as soon as a Republican wins, of course it's possible. But when your guy wins, it's impossible. And if you even suggest it, if you breathe it, if you think it, you're an insurrectionist, according to these people. That's what I don't like about Democrats.
There are all these conspiracy theories out there about Trump and whether or not they cheated. I know you say that they didn't, but I know you kind of have
wait
to
a minute.
say
I didn't say they didn't. What I said is there is a rational explanation for why Kamala Harris could have lost those swing states and Trump won them. There's a way you can get to those numbers with people staying home or only voting for Trump and not the rest of the ballot. I'm saying there's a history of that. However,
let me hear it, because what
I will say is there was absolute voter suppression that took place, and I consider that cheating. If you think about the voter law in your state of Georgia, that law is anti-voter. When you have bomb threats only in Fulton County, we don't know how many people stayed home out of fear because of the bomb threats in Fulton County.
Hold on. We also don't know if those threats weren't called in by Democrats, which is usually more likely than Republicans. She also talked about voter suppression being some kind of evidence that there's some kind of shenanigans going on. Well, no amount of laws were changed more. She's talking about the laws. No amount of laws were changed more than the 2020 election over COVID. They opened them up. They said you don't have to do signature matching. They said they were counting votes that were 3 days late. They opened them up. Anytime there's a disaster, you never not take advantage of a disaster when you're a Democrat.
When you have Elon Musk waving around $1 million checks in order for people to vote for Trump.
Yeah.
Right. There's so many things that were done that were nefarious, to put aside just the actual voter suppression in these anti-voter laws that kept people from registering, that messed up people's voter registration when they showed up and all of a sudden they're not on the rolls.
But that happens every year, right? That happens
every
all
election.
the time.
So yeah,
what
I
I'm
think
talking about are these conspiracy theories about Elon Musk, somehow using his tech connections, because I don't want to say genius, because we know he's not.
Yeah, he ain't a genius.
But those relationships or whatever, because they just seem too confident. And I know,
keep drinking, Joy. Look at Joy over there chugging. I'm going to have a drink if I have to listen to them. Here they're coming up with their conspiracies on Elon Musk and how much money he paid. Kamala Harris paid people money per vote registration. She paid celebrities like Oprah Winfrey and the rock Beyonce or whatever her name is, millions of dollars, and Al Sharpton millions of dollars. No comment on that, because it was payment for the right party, according to these ladies.
And I know, and I'm not saying it was the voting machines or whatever. It just doesn't add up to me with all the support that she had. And I know that for you,
I'm with her. Look, first of all, it's wrong that Kamala Harris had all that support. It was obvious she was hemorrhaging votes, her own party. Everyone said it, even at MSNBC. We saw incredible ground support for Trump in 2020. I'm only saying the same thing as them. Why do they not have their channel removed for saying the same thing? Two-tiered justice system.
You, and because of what happened with Fox and because what you do professionally with the network, you can't say it was the machines or something like that. But if you think it was the machines, but you can't say, just don't say anything. See, this is what I'm saying.
I'm not saying anything. All I'm saying is there are many ways to cheat in an election. And I don't ever put it past Republicans to cheat in elections because they've been busted too many times.
I'm just going to give her that argument. I agree with her. You should be able to say it. She's not even able to say it. She's terrified of a lawsuit saying it specifically about machines, but she'll say there's many ways, implying it's machines, that, and the other one was saying that Elon Musk could use machines or whatever. And so I think they're from outer space. And now to go out of the unhinged frying pan into the unhinged fire, here's Morning Joe.
Going back to Kash Patel, someone who, if he were the FBI director, would obviously work under her. I'm curious, your thoughts about that, your thoughts about Kash Patel and your concerns and why you wrote this letter.
The reason for the letter, and thank you for having me to talk about it, is very simply to make my colleagues more aware of some of the really extremist views that he's expressed, his adherence to QAnon, his embrace of conspiracy theories, his statement that government undercover agents instigated and incited the January 6th insurrection, and maybe most important, his determination to go after enemies, that is political opponents, judges, media, lawyers, who he regards as advocates of opposing political views.
By the way,
Kash Patel was one of the only guys in intelligence that went against all of the majority that said that the FBI, the Hunter Biden laptop, Kash Patel blew the whistle on that, saying it's real. He's one of the only guys that blew the lid on the Russia collusion, the hoax, and he was right. And then now they're finding that there were a number of our intelligence agents among the crowds on J6th. He's been right about most things.
By the way, Senator, it's important for our viewers to recognize that many on that so-called enemies list are actually Republicans that Donald Trump appointed.
That's absolutely right. Bill Barr, John Bolton, many others. Even if I disagree with them, I don't regard them as having any kind of criminal culpability. And I think
now they think it's a sick burn to say Kash Patel even went after Republicans. What's that really tell you? That he's a man of standards. If you hold out a standard and your own party goes against it, then you should prosecute or investigate them. That's totally foreign to Democrats, to Joe Scarborough. He thinks it's a sick burn. It's actually evidence that Kash Patel isn't just working for the Republican Party.
On that so-called enemies list are actually Republicans that Donald Trump appointed.
He's willing to go after Bill Barr. He's willing to go after John Bolton. He's maybe willing to go after Liz Cheney to find out what they say. Democrats never go after their own. Nowhere do they ever investigate a Democrat. To them, if you're a Democrat, you're beyond any investigation, you're beyond any sin, you're incapable of doing injustice. And the opposite, if you're a Republican and you're not Liz Cheney or Adam Kinzinger or John Bolton, then you're completely immune to prosecution. So even their point on this is totally foul.
it goes back to whether or not Pam Bondi is willing and able to say no to Donald Trump. The question is not whether, but when she will have to say no when he asks her to do something illegal or immoral. And Kash Patel is an agent of Donald Trump in trying to go after enemies. He's very explicitly listed them. They include Republicans, but most important, he can ruin lives and essentially endanger the country in an organization that has immense power, the FBI.
So, Senator, we should also just note that Pam Bondi yesterday said she wasn't aware of any Kash Patel enemies list. Again, he wrote it down. It's actually in his book. They're in the black and white. So let's spin this forward a little bit then.
Now, here's another difference between Democrats and Republicans. Kash Patel wrote about everything he's going to do in a book. He's clear. He's transparent. He's honest. Democrats, I'm just going to compare that to Alejandro Mayorkas, to Merrick Garland. They've never exposed what they're doing. Christopher Wray, they're always with a straight face going, oh no, we're blank, we're normal. They never put out in public what their agenda is, which Kash Patel did. He published it in a book. So I'm saying at least they can argue over, at least they can debate it. You can't debate it with Democrats because they would never write down so that you'd learn what they're actually doing. You have to pull emails to find out all these secret. You have to find servers that they keep bleach bidding and deleting, emails they close down. As soon as Trump won, the FBI announced that they're closing their DEI, their diversity, equity, and inclusion division. They're closing the whole thing down. And Trump said, wait, do not destroy any files. That was just yesterday, made the announcement. Do not destroy files because I'm coming for you. And they tried changing the department's name to just Human Resources, which is already DEI.
From what you heard from Attorney General candidate Bondi, do you have confidence on two things? Do you have confidence that first, she will be able to rein in Kash Patel? And secondly, the question you just posed, will she say no to Donald Trump?
I have no confidence whatsoever that she will be able to restrict Kash Patel. The position of director is supposed to be independent. She has limited kinds of resources to rein him in, and he can start investigation without even informing her office about beginning them. And
hold on, but what about Merrick Garland? Did Christopher Wray informed Merrick Garland that he was going to spy on pro-life Catholics? No, he didn't tell him anything. And then Merrick Garland goes, I have no information on this. I have no knowledge of this. I mean, if Jack Smith did work and fully inform Merrick Garland, I'd love to see those emails.
And on her independence, I think that's the key question that you've raised. And I have no confidence that she will refuse to put Donald Trump ahead of the American people. She has to be the people's lawyer. She has to tell truth to power. And as I told her, when I was Attorney General of Connecticut, my first loyalty was to the people of Connecticut. Hers has to be to the people of America. Donald Trump has said, I have an absolute right, his words, absolute right to do whatever I want with the Department of Justice. That's not the way the system should work. She has to be independent, and I have no confidence that she will be.
That's Richard Blumenthal, who's a complete fraud. He never had these concerns with Merrick Garland. No one said to Merrick Garland, are you willing to stand against President Biden? They all knew what he was doing, and they all pretended like they had no idea what he was doing. Now, I found this from a Jeremy Boring tweet on X about Joy Reid, another weirdo conspiracy of hers.
The 20th century was the era, the American century, when America pulled itself back from this notion of oligarchy to an incredible extent, invented a middle class. The things President Biden was talking about in that first 9 minutes, those are the things that the 20th century built when we beat back the robber barons and beat back the trust and established an income tax, which didn't exist until the 20th century, established women's rights, civil rights, immigrant rights. That's the 20th century.
Why would she put an income tax up with women's rights? She's defending the tax like it's great. The taxes were an emergency to fund wars. Before that, we paid no tax. So even that, they proposed a tax, they got it passed in an emergency situation, and they did not remove it after World War II, which they should have.
And these oligarchs they've always been there. Who do you think was paying for, Rush Limbaugh? He was a very wealthy man.
Rush Limbaugh was paid for by oligarchs? I don't think so. Rush Limbaugh was one of the most successful talk show hosts in the world because he was talented, and he went on AM radio, which was considered a dead medium, and he brought people in. Audiences were built inside of his radio show, that EIB network, which he built. He invented that whole business that was considered dead. And then he would put out a book, and they were all bestsellers. He made millions of dollars on his show, on his products. And she's saying it's a rich oligarch? No. If anything, what's weird is no one can understand how all of these MSNBC clowns, let me get them on stage here. No one knows how these people are getting paid because their ratings are so low.
Fox is owned by an oligarch. Who do they think is funding the Ben Shapiro and other podcasts? The oligarch.
Oh, Ben Shapiro, it's the Jews. There's Joy Reid. It's the Jews funding Ben Shapiro. Yeah, I smelled it. I smelled it from a mile away, Joy. Who's funding CNN? Who's funding the New York Times? Where are those oligarchs, by the way, all funded by George Soros?
He's been hidden in the background the whole time. And Biden is this pivot president. As America is hurtling towards sort of falling in love with these rich tech gods, these tech bros.
Rich tech bros like George Soros, Sam Bankman-Fried, who committed all of this absolute illegal activity with his crypto money washing scam that benefited all these Democrats, and they gave him a hand slap. And what about Hollywood? Hollywood, talk about oligarchs, the most powerful, influential people in the world. Who's pushing back on them? She has no problem with Mark Zuckerberg when he's doing the Democrat Party's wish. And then it's when Mark Zuckerberg visits Mar-a-Lago and says, we're ending censorship on Facebook, which I doubt. But he did say that. Now suddenly they're terrified. Jeff Bezos, now they're terrified. All these big companies are pulling out of DEI and woke policy. Now they're all going, all these oligarchs. Remember, what was it? The Occupy Wall Street. They were all against Wall Street until BlackRock 5 years ago said that they have an obligation to help fund green movement stuff, DEI, all of that woke material, LGBTQ stuff, which, by the way, now BlackRock is pulling out too. They've just announced that they're pulling out of a bunch of green initiatives because they said it's unprofitable and it's the wrong time to push this to be a profitable company. And finally, this segment is so unwatchable, I'm not going to torment you with much of it, but I just feel like you have to watch Lawrence O'Donnell give his final interview with President Biden.
From that desk last night, that was really the final big public moment in a 50-year political career.
Oh,
yeah, that's how long.
Yeah, we're crossing ourselves too.
You've served in government longer than any person who's ever served in this job.
That's not a compliment. You've overstayed your welcome.
What did that feel like at the end of that speech? We were pushed out of the room as people were surrounding you, hugging you, and as that emotion was filling the room.
Hold on, don't miss that. They pushed the press out of the room. He tries to cover up with this, oh, it was an emotional moment. No. Right after Biden made his speech, they pushed the press out of the room, probably so he could go take a nap.
But was there a sense of the release of a burden getting up from that desk?
There was a release of a poop in his diapers.
No, but there was a sense that of serious concern. You've known me a long time. I really am concerned about how fragile democracy is. That sounds corny, but I mean,
How could he say that democracy is fragile, my people? There was an overwhelming election, overwhelmingly clear. The votes went smooth. Trump got a near, if not the majority, not just the collegiate vote, the college vote, but Trump smeared them. There was no bizarre machine activity where voters were repressed in any way. It was clear what there was. And he says he's concerned for democracy. Very strange that suddenly he's putting out that shade. Now, just remember, when Trump lost in 2020, he put out a concern for democracy. He put out a concern about machines and rigging. I'm totally sympathetic to his saying that. I think he has a right to say that. But what Biden's really saying here is he's upset that he lost. And without saying it out loud, he's blaming Elon Musk and our yours and my social media presence for creating a giant landslide against Kamala Harris and for Trump. That's the unspoken thing that he's saying in here.
Really, I'm concerned because you've heard me say it 100 times. I really think we're at an inflection point in history here. We're unrelated to any particular leader. Things are going to change drastically. And it occurs every 5 or 6 generations. And it usually is generated by technology, usually generated by, for example, if Gutenberg didn't invent the printing press, how would Europe ever gotten united in any way to understand what each country is thinking? It sounds stupid, but it really matters.
And Biden was just a child when the Gutenberg printing press was invented.
I got involved, I didn't think about it this way, but I got involved in public life because of the abuse of power.
Well said. We're going to end on that. Joe Biden just said he got involved in public life because of the abuse of power. Little did he know how true that statement was. No one has abused their power more than Joe Biden did, without getting votes on the southern border before he removed the border, with trying to illegally excuse student loans, college loans, though the purse strings are not held by the presidency. He did so many illegal things and so much, went to California during the fires. He visited California, not to be with fire victims, but to stop drilling all across that coast to knock them out as sanctuary government lands. Sanctuary cities are under his watch. What happened under Biden is so corrupt and such a misuse of power that when he leaves, there will already be an incredible rebalancing of politics and of our government institutions under Trump. Thank God. Hope you guys will subscribe. I'm really honored to have you guys as viewers. I'm Doug TenNapel, and this is Exile.